It is impossible to overstate how much chess genius Garry Kasparov despises Vladimir Putin. Now, with Donald Trump in the White House, he fears the threat posed by the Russian president is even greater. Kasparov was born in Azerbaijan, then part of the old Soviet Union, and went from being Soviet to Russian and is now a Croatian who lives mainly in the US or on planes. While Putin is president, Kasparov will not, for his own safety, go back to Russia, even though his elderly mother still lives there. When I interviewed him, she was visiting him in Vilnius, Lithuania. Despite his exile and his disparate global leadership, he remains optimistic that Trump won't last, not least because he will revive political activism against him, and that a new generation of people power will topple Putin, the man he says is the richest on the planet, through corruption and cronyism. Aggressive as a chess grandmaster, Kasparov is similarly aggressive in his campaigning and thinks he has an advantage over his current opponent. Putin, he insists, is more a poker player than a chess maestro. So if you're on a plane and the guy next to you doesn't know you and asks what you do, what do you say? GK If I have no idea who this is, I am not keen to start opening up conversations. I don't want to mislead this neighbor, so we'll say I am giving lectures, I am a speaker, I do some work on education. And if you're giving a speech and the organizers ask you to say how you should be introduced in 2 sentences. Planning a New Year's detox. Gito Harry recommends the Brexit fast. GK Former world chess champion, chairman of Human Rights Foundation, author of Winter is Coming and Now Deep Thinking. My life is split in 3 parts. 1 Don't know the percentage. 1 could be called chess. The Kasparov Chess Foundation, promoting the game, training young players, playing on the internet, sometimes exhibitions. The 2nd area would be writing books, articles, Twitter, Facebook, and then political activity fighting for human rights and democracy, so TV, interviews, speeches. Getty Images Do chess players fade like athletes? If you played world champion Magnus Carlsen now, how would it go? GK No. Too hard. The top players are getting younger. The main reason is they can gather vast experience by playing against computers. Your own experience is important, but you can play many more tournaments because of the internet. So where in the world rankings would you be? GK It is about energy and concentration. For young players, their minds are not overloaded. I am 54 with 4 kids and I do many other things. Even if I stopped everything else, spent months working just on chess, 4-hour-long match against most of the top players, a classical match, 6 hours, say, I don't stand a chance. I have a better chance in shorter matches. Rapid is 25 minutes, or blitz events where you have 5 minutes to make a move, or bullet games, where it is 1 minute. For blitz 5 minutes chess, I would be top 10, top 5. But longer games, no chance. What makes Carlsen so special? GK He is a combination of Bobby Fischer, former champion, and Anatoly Karpov, champion deposed by Kasparov in 1985. Karpov was a genius at looking for tiny advantages, maximizing effects with minimum resources. But he didn't have the Fischer passion and aggression. Magnus adds Fischer's passion and determination to Karpov's ability to crawl and collect tiny advantages. He doesn't care if it takes 50 moves, 60 or 80. He is physically very fit. Why is that important? GK Energy. Energy is connected to physical fitness. One of the reasons I stayed at the top so long is that I was tremendously fit. At 36, I was fitter than most opponents 10 years younger. Jeremy Corbyn's prime ministerial GQ makeover. One of the reasons I stayed at the top so long is that I was tremendously fit. AC, did you train physically? GK, at least 1 hour a day, swimming, rowing, running. My personal record was 107 press-ups without stopping. AC, okay, politics. Give me one word each to describe Putin and Trump. GK, Putin, dictator. Trump, phony. Pete Souza might make a book of iPhone pictures. AC, Barack Obama. GK, feckless. AC, would you be Tory or Labour? GK, sorry, Alistair, but with Jeremy Corbyn, Labour is cursed. AC, Blair or Major. When we were in charge, would you have been Labour? One of Jeremy Corbyn's largest personal donors. On why he gave him his money. GK, unlikely. I am between the Tories and the Lib Dems. I am fiscally conservative, in for strong foreign policy, but socially very liberal. I am not religious. That makes me feel uncomfortable with American Republicans. I don't feel at home anywhere, really. Labour under Tony Blair was not something I would associate myself with, but I didn't have a big problem with it. I have to make a choice between fiscal and the role of the state and social freedom. Now Trump, actually, can I change the one word? I would rather make it more poetic. Obama, feckless. Trump, reckless. Obama, feckless. Trump, reckless. AC, what do you make of the Putin-Trump relationship? GK, I don't think Trump will be in the position to push his foreign policy agenda. He will be constrained. Trump likes to do deals. Deals between big guys, small parties not invited, just informed. Another Yalta, the 1945 conference where Britain, the US and the Soviet Union discussed how Europe would be reorganized after the war. AC, carving up countries. Jeremy Corbyn dresses better than most footballers. GK, for sure. He doesn't care. Estonia, Lithuania, Europe, everything is at the table, a chip on the table. That is why Putin likes and supports him. Even if we set aside all these stories that Putin has something compromising on Trump. AC, do you believe that, by the way? GK, I do, but even without that, Putin likes Trump because he supports this view of the world, that the big guys can carve it up, sit and talk about the world, carve up the countries, shape borders. For Putin, treaties, alliances, NATO, the EU are stumbling blocks. Putin likes Trump because he supports this view of the world that the big guys can carve it up. AC, are you shocked the Americans are not up in arms that the Russians interfered in their election? GK, it is incredible. It's the result of 25 years of increased partisanship. The party trumps everything else. Many Republicans who traditionally were for a positive role in the world, anti-Russian, now they want to defend their party and leader, and they don't care about real arguments. The paradox is the Democrats were so timid in criticizing Putin. Obama appeased him and now they are criticizing Putin's interference in American democracy. It is a strange reversal of the roles. AC, is liberal democracy under threat? GK, in the past few months, I am a little more optimistic every day. I say we should praise Trump for existing and for winning, because it has woken people up. For many years, I have been trying to say to Europeans, and especially to Americans, that Putin is a problem for the world. And they have swatted me away. It's your problem, we have our democracy. Suddenly, because of Trump, they are learning about separation of powers, independence of the judiciary, and that Ronald Reagan was right when he said, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. AC, but 50% didn't even vote. GK, Trump is a catalyst. People care now in a way they didn't. The American institutions were rusting, now they are being revitalized. Trump is a lightning rod. They're getting engaged, and the American liberal media that spent too much time on PC issues can focus on Putin and Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Jeremy Corbyn is a winner because he genuinely gives a damn. AC can Trump survive 4 years? GK no, there is a good chance he won't. Conflict of interest is the biggest danger for Trump. He is destroying one of the pillars of the free world. He is seeking to eliminate the very concept of conflict of interest. A lot of things in America were built on a code of honor. I am confident the damage done by ruling through family and friends will be made impossible by future regulation. Conflict of interest is the biggest danger for Trump. He is destroying one of the pillars of the free world. AC, do you think he is jealous of Putin because he does things Trump would like to and gets away with it? GK Trump envies anyone who can do things he can't. GQ editor Dylan Jones on why Jeremy Corbyn is on the cover. AC, how wealthy would you say Putin is? GK, he is the wealthiest man on the planet, for sure. But this is different to the wealth of a Bill Gates or a Warren Buffett, a Carlos Slim or a Sergey Brin. They stay wealthy whether it is Obama or Trump in power. Putin's wealth depends on him staying in power. It is all about controlling the budget, the hard currency reserves, and keeping under his thumb the oligarchs who cannot move their money without his permission. It's something close to $1 trillion that he can control and move. Alexei Navalny, opposition politician who has led anti-corruption protests, had a blog about a credit line to a company owned by Putin's son-in-law, $1.75 billion from Russian state funds. This is one transaction. Putin controls more money directly and indirectly than any individual in human history. It is something close to $1 trillion that Putin can control and move. AC, do you ever think you are too harsh on Putin? GK laughs. I think I am too soft. Nothing can be too harsh. History tells you if dictators are not stopped in time, they cause more damage. When I was on an American show in 2015, I tried to talk about the threat Putin posed to the free world. The interviewer said, "Wake me up when he takes over Poland." We heard something similar from years ago and we ended up with World War II. Putin decided to skip Poland and went straight to Wisconsin. Putin is at war, a hybrid war, with the free world. His domestic propaganda is based entirely on a strong man challenging the free world. When the demonstrations around Russia began, the harsh response was because it was more important to show strength. The mythology about him being popular is ruined. Jeremy Corbyn and Theresa May have more in common than one might think. AC, will you ever be able to go back? GK, I could go back, but it would be my last trip. People with my views, we know what happens. Look at Boris Nemtsov, opposition politician who was assassinated in 2015. AC, you don't need to be in Moscow. Look what happened to Alexander Litvinenko, former Russian agent who was poisoned in London in 2006. GK, sure, you are in danger everywhere, but it is more difficult for them to do anything in Europe than Moscow. Getty Images. AC, what about your mother? She still lives there. GK, that is a painful thought. She just turned 80, but she doesn't want to move. She has a sister there, nieces and nephews, the extended family. My only hope is that because Putin and his cronies have their families abroad, they don't go after families because they also have their interests. She meets me here in Vilnius or Tallinn, and in the summer we spend a month in Croatia. AC, sir, sitting in Vilnius right now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you think I am at risk here? GK, I try to be cautious. I don't visit places where I think I might be at risk. From 1 to 10? Probably 2 to 3. AC, okay. Not bad. What did you make of the Navalny protests in March? GK, it is new. One of the important factors was the protests were organized in more than 80 cities. Not just Moscow, but from Vladivostok to St. Petersburg. ACE, will Putin be worried? GK, he will be seriously worried. In 2011, the protest was about the elections, Putin's comeback as president and the response to the demonstrations. There was a good, clear reason. This time it was all about one man and his team. The fact Navalny could mobilize so many young people against it was new. This is a new generation that is acting. They gathered in the streets following the call of a leader. Navalny has 2 million followers on Twitter. Social media is starting to beat TV. We used to say, the freezer beats TV, because people would rather stare at their freezer than watch propaganda TV. But now they have the internet, they follow Navalny. If Navalny survives, we have a leader of the opposition attractive to young Russians, and you will see protests erupting again. If Navalny survives, we have a leader of the opposition attractive to young Russians, and you will see protests erupting again. AC, but when you ran for office, you knew you couldn't win. GK, when I tried, we could rely on support in the big cities, but oil was $174 a barrel. We knew the election would be a charade. AC, once he did the same with Navalny. GK, but now Navalny keeps talking about running. He knows the regime will not be replaced by the ballot. All the electoral procedures are just an opportunity for him to mobilize supporters to the streets. AC, so Putin can only be toppled by protest, not democracy. GK, there is no democracy. Dictators do not go away through the vote. Putin relies on riot police, thousands of them, with heavy equipment, fighting Russian youngsters. The other important thing of these protests, it was the first time they were not sanctioned. It used to be people would say, let's not provoke. Let's make sure we have the official permit. This time, the cities said, no way, and they did it anyway. It is a new form of civil disobedience, and even after years of harsh action, people are still here fighting, and it is a different demographic. That gives us hope that the future of Russia is not lost. There is no democracy. Dictators do not go away through the vote. AC, why were you so disappointed with Obama? GK, he took over after Putin's first aggression in Georgia. In 2009, he did the reset policy because they had these stupid ideas about former President Dmitry Medvedev. They thought he would be the leader, not Putin. Everyone played this game with Medvedev as their bet. Berlin, Paris, London. The idea of smoothly transferring to something more acceptable. It was always a charade, a Putin project to solidify his power and come back after 4 years of nominal occupation of the office by Medvedev. He is a billionaire, too, by the way. Even after that, Obama tried to find common ground. It was obvious by 2012 that Putin was a lifetime dictator, and they said cooperate. Then came Syria and Obama's red line: if Assad used chemical weapons, the line was crossed, then nothing. That was an open invitation to Putin to go to Syria and kill people. If you say, red line, you have to shoot anyone who crosses it. Feckless. He was not flexible enough to admit he made a mistake. Also, he did nothing to defend American democracy. Having all that power and trying to play a sort of quiet game without making it public. He swore to defend the Constitution, and he failed in that test. AC, what approach should Trump take to Putin? GK, I refuse to talk about what he should do. We are wasting our time. He is ruled by instinct. He is 70. He cannot change. AC, so what should the rest of the American body politic do? GK, recognize that the free world is at war with Putin, and America is the leader of the free world and should build the coalition against him. It is similar to what Harry Truman did in the 40s. They have to oppose the threat that comes from Putin and other dictators. They all make confrontation with the free world the issue. North Korea. They blackmail South Korea, Japan and America, and eventually want financial support. The Iranians, Assad, so many dictators trying to blackmail the free world because they have no way to compete on ideas, innovation or creativity. The Cold War was two competing visions of the future. I was always anti-communist, but it was an idea, at least, an alternative idea. We do not have a competing vision for the future because the ideals of these dictators are in the past. They're time travelers, ISIS with their old view of the Quran, Putin who wants to go back to a form of 19th century politics. They need confrontation and destruction to survive. The problem is, many people in the free world are sympathetic to Putin. I was always anti-communist, but it was an idea, at least, an alternative idea, AC like Trump. Marine Le Pen. GK. The Soviet Union tried to sell a set of ideas, very left-wing, and focus on so-called peace. Putin doesn't care who helps him to push his agenda. He is equally comfortable with the politics of Nigel Farage and Corbyn in Britain, Le Pen and Jean-Luc Mélenchon in France. Whether far-left or nationalist, he doesn't care, as long as they support chaos and destruction and the undermining of existing institutions. AC. So does he see these people as useful idiots? GK. It is always a combination. Useful idiots are paid agents, some are both. In Germany, he backs Alternative für Deutschland, hard right, and Die Linke on the left. Geert Wilders, Le Pen, Farage, Die Linke, Corbyn, they help Putin in different ways. In Syria, he sees the chance to make millions of refugees and weaponize them. The US has to take a lead in defending the values of the free world. We see threats to liberal democracy coming from lots of directions. We have to create something new, a common response, because in so many places the UK, France, Germany ultra-nationalists and the far left threaten the free market and liberal democracy. Putin doesn't care who helps him to push his agenda. AC and Putin is a common factor, you think. GK. You see his fingerprints everywhere. AC. Of the two, Putin and Trump, who do you see as the bigger danger? GK. Putin, because Trump can be dealt with within American democracy. There is an independent judiciary. He cannot overrule American courts. He will have to play by some rules. He will do damage, certainly, but to do real damage I think he is too weak. Putin is aggressive wherever he can be. In Europe, in Germany, Putin will not stop. AC. I interviewed you about strategy for my book on winners. Is there not a tiny part of you that looks at Putin and thinks, well, at least he is strategic? GK. Dictators are not strategists in the way I normally use that term. All the dictator cares about is survival. That means constantly worrying about the tactical response. What do I do today, tonight, tomorrow morning, to stay alive? He doesn't care what happens a year or 5 years from now. He just cares about staying in the game. That is all he needs to survive. Dictators are not strategists in the way I normally use that term. All the dictator cares about is survival. AC. So he is not a chess player. GK. He is not a chess player, he is a poker player. In chess, you don't know what your opponent will do, but you know what hand he has. In poker, you can have a weak hand, but you can conceal and you can bluff and you can make your opponent fold when he might have stronger cards. AC. Obama. GK. Obama. Yes. Putin had a pair of fives, but he acted like he had a royal flush. Obama had a full house and he flushed it down the toilet. AC. Would Mike Pence be better as US president? GK. I am a social liberal, so I have problems with him, but at least he is a legitimate politician. Months on, Trump has still not filled important positions, and that is consciously done. Trump does not want these positions filled because he wants to control foreign policy. Pence is a legitimate politician who has a better understanding of the role of institutions. Deep Thinking Where Machine Intelligence Ends and Human Creativity Begins by Garry Kasparov is out now. Like this. Now read Alistair Campbell. I can't help thinking Jeremy Corbyn would have fared better from me. What is impeachment? A guide for Donald Trump. Trump and Putin's bromance could change the world.